Well, hello, and welcome to the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I'm Dave Riccio, here along with John Riggle, and together we are here to help you with your car. Car questions, car concerns, you can certainly email them to us. We'll try and cover them as best we can, find out what you want to know about your car. This is when you get to be a fly on the wall in an auto repair shop. And John, you've been in this industry 40 years.
40 years, yeah.
And I've been saying that probably for 5 years now.
I quit counting at 40.
Maybe that number is wrong, but you've worked in all aspects of this industry, whether you're teaching, you've done a lot of instruction, whether you're in the bay diagnosing vehicles, and you have a passion for the industry that I haven't found anywhere else, where you care about your brethren in the industry, the customers in the industry, and there's just a sense of pride about the industry. And one of the things, here at Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair that you are involved with is just about every vehicle that comes through the shop.
Yeah.
And Diagnostic is your passion. We happen to be a transmission and auto repair shop, and I'd like to take a look at transmissions because they're easily the most complicated, most misunderstood, and most commonly misdiagnosed part of the vehicle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, technicians don't know what they don't know sometimes.
Yeah.
And transmissions are a different animal. And being complicated like that, I know when I started in the auto repair industry, I started in general repair. So oil changes and brakes and water pumps and air conditioning and all that stuff. And people would come in, and I was in the business. I was managing a store at age 22.
Yeah.
People came in, and I regularly gave them bad advice about their transmission on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But now being on this side of the industry where I've been in transmissions for 18 years, now I know what I didn't know back then.
Yeah.
And so not knowing what you don't know is a thing.
Yeah.
And so that was well-intentioned bad advice because I really wanted to sincerely give good advice, but I didn't know what I was talking about. And the most common phone call we get is, how much for a transmission in my car?
Yeah, how much for a transmission?
Every single conversation starts that way.
Yeah.
And because they want to know the worst case, someone already told them maybe in a parking lot,
Right.
hey, you need a transmission. Transmissions aren't diagnosed in a parking lot.
Yeah.
The other thing they're not diagnosed by is taking them out of the car.
Yeah.
Because when you take them out of the car, you take them away from the dyno or the source that you need to actually test them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of misconception around transmission. And when we take an appointment for transmission diagnostic, we go through an interview that's a little bit painful for the customer. How often does it happen? Does it happen when the vehicle's been warmed up? When did you first notice it? What other repairs have you had on the car recently? Because so many other things affect the transmission.
Mm-hmm.
And we go through the questionnaire, and if someone's sincere about getting their car fixed and is willing to go through that process, it's going to be a better process for them.
That's the most important part of the process. I think it starts, the whole thing is a process, and it starts with gathering as much information as you can, and you need good information. It's one of those situations where, bad info in, you get bad info back out. So that initial interaction with the customer, a lot of these complaints that we deal with are subjective. And so we have to decide what are the objective parts of the observations, what's subjective. Is this car actually broken? Is this some idiosyncrasy that this car has that people are confused about? So, that's where we start with it, and it's just really important.
And the other thing that we do is we go for a road test with a customer when the car shows up.
Yep.
Now, people think that transmissions always come in on a tow truck. That's not the case, actually, hardly anymore.
Yeah.
It's on every third Thursday of the month, my car does something wonky.
Yeah.
Can you help me with that?
Yeah.
Well, we have to dial down to wonky. Every third Thursday would actually be great information.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily what we get. So when we do that interview, we're going through all that, and sometimes it's like pulling teeth, because people the questions are uncomfortable because they have to think about it.
Yeah.
But very important. So now that we've got the information, now that we give you the ticket, now that you're going to go drive the car, now I generally will do the road test with a customer, just so I can verify what it is they're feeling. And they say, well, it's not going to do it when you get in the car. And I say, no, that's the way it always happens. When you go to the doctor, you don't feel sick.
Yeah.
And so, but I use that road test to interview them and at least give them some scenarios. And as I point out scenarios, they can say, that's about when it would normally do it.
Right.
Okay, now I know it's going around a corner. Or I know it's when you're going 45 miles an hour on a city street and you kind of want to not box somebody in, and so you move forward a little bit, you accelerate a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe you get a rumble strip vibration, something like that.
Yeah.
So I take notes. Now I give it to you. You're pulling into the bay. What's the first thing you do?
First thing I do is look at the car. I walk around the car and I start making observations. What do the tires look like? Are the tires worn out? Do they all match? I look at the body panels on the car. Is there any reason to believe this car may have a salvage title or something? Because that opens up a whole different set of things that we have to deal with and consider for possibilities. So my first thing is just these, real basic observations about the car. Are the tags expired? Is that why they're at a trans shop? Because they've got a check engine light on for a transmission problem because they're trying to get the car through emissions and they can't have the check engine light on, but they've got some transmission code that needs to be dealt with before they can get it through emissions. So there's all these different things that come into play, and that's the very first step. We do that, and then the next step is to take the car out. I take them on a 3-mile road test, and pay attention to all the little details, squeaks, rattles. What's the thing run like? Does it do all the things it should do? All these little observations. What's the mileage on the car?
Yeah.
How many miles are on this thing? We can start to, I got a car that rolls in here with 40,000 miles on it, and I'm thinking, okay, this is probably a real fundamental problem that happened with this car. This was something that happened while this car was driving down the road. So, a lot of those things are what I look at right off the bat.
So now it's in the bay. You've given it a 3-mile road test. You're looking at the fluid next. What does the fluid condition look like? But you're also checking the engine oil.
Checking the engine oil.
That's such a funny story. We had a Subaru come in from an auto repair shop with a transmission problem.
A good auto repair shop.
A good auto repair shop.
Great auto repair shop.
And they bring it over, and John goes to check it out, and it's got some weird symptoms.
Yeah.
And but as part of your normal procedure, you always check the engine oil.
Yeah.
Every time. And so you pull the dipstick, and this thing's like 4 quarts over full. And that right there was the problem.
Yeah.
And so they were thinking this thing needs a new transmission. We don't know how to diagnose it. Here you go. We suck 4 quarts out of the engine, and the car is fixed.
Yeah.
And I've seen that over full thing happen probably half a dozen times.
Yeah.
Half a dozen times.
Yep.
So it's the details.
Yeah.
So it's looking around under the hood and getting a gauge on the whole car. But then you're going to plug into it here at some point. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, then we'll plug a scan tool in it. I'll scan all the modules in the car. We'll look for codes in every module because sometimes we'll have things that relate to our problem. We can have problems with steering angle sensors that cause transmissions to act up and do weird things as part of the traction control. So I need to know, does this thing have steering angle sensor codes in it or something like that that may be causing part of this issue? So a thorough scan is the next thing we do.
Of all the modules.
Yeah, and I kind of got to go back to the road test again. The one most important thing we do on the road test is verify the customer's complaint. I've got to, you usually go road test them with the customer. I've got to verify that I know exactly what it is also. So I want to feel it too. And sometimes I'll come up and I'll ask you questions about it.
Yeah.
Is this what you felt? Because I'm feeling something that's a little bit different than the way you described it or whatever. So that's the very first, second most important thing we do is verify the customer's complaint.
Yeah, otherwise, if you can't verify that customer's complaint, it's like, hey, the car's doing something wonky.
Yeah.
And wonky means all kinds of things.
Yep.
It's getting a little janky.
Well, and the other thing is, so people may pick out something real subtle with the car. Well, I may go drive it, and I don't know if that's their complaint or they've got an intermittent problem that's much worse. Somebody will say the car jerks on occasion. Well, I may go drive it, and I may feel a light surge out of it or something. But what we'll find out is later on when the car gets hot, it's got a misfire or something.
Yeah.
And that's really the customer's complaint. So narrowing down what the customer's concern is and then verifying it before we make any changes. I don't want to, those cars with the engine oil that was over full, I didn't make any changes till I'd taken it out. I drove it. I watched what the ignition timing was doing. These things were sucking oil through the PCV system, causing them to spark knock. They were retarding the timing. Well, I could see that in the scan tool. So that's the way I diagnose things. I want to watch and see what's happening. Now I can make a change. And the way you verify that you fix something is to run the same test that you did to condemn something. You run that test again and see if the results from that test change. And that's the next thing that I do. Then I'll suck the oil out of it. I'll take it back out. I'll watch what the timing, air mass, and things like that are doing. Now I know, okay, that's the answer for the problem.
Yeah. So the diagnostic cannot be understated in regard to transmissions. And I say, and I said this often, and I say 1 in 3 transmissions are either overhauled or replaced in total air.
I would say that's probably real close.
It's actually probably conservative.
Yeah.
Because honestly, what we've been seeing lately with 8 and 10-speed transmissions, it's got to be 2 out of 3. But I don't want to be that bold with that big of a number. But shoot, I mean, I had the lady in the Ford Expedition. She went to the dealership, $9,000, 10-speed transmission in a late model Expedition. Then she went to another transmission shop. They drove it. They're like, we can't find anything wrong with it, but we can do it for $8,000.
Yeah.
So she hears about a Reputation, gives us a call, and how much for a transmission? I've already got a quote for 10 and one for 8, and they both say it's bad. You know, that's how you're going to fix it. And I say, I have no idea how much it costs because it totally depends on what's wrong with it. Come on down. Let's go for a test drive.
Yeah.
So we took it for a test drive, and she goes, I'm frustrated. I've been to 2 shops, and neither of them could verify it, and both had a big expense. And I said, well, how many of those shops actually got in the car and drove it with you?
None.
She said, none of them.
Yeah.
You know, so we went for a drive, and we're on the 101, and we're probably 3 miles down the road before I felt it. She goes, that's it. Well, now I felt it. I can pass that information to you. Now we've got a symptom, and now you can literally figure that symptom out. You're still going to do your checking of the fluids and all those other things you do because a checklist is the best way not to miss something.
Yeah.
And so you do all that, and then you go to the technical service bulletins, and I watch you do that on every car, and you almost already know the technical service bulletins, but you just check them every time.
I check them every time. They change. They get added. They get deleted. They get updated. So every time. And the thing with TSBs is usually guys go look for TSBs when they've spent 4 hours trying to figure out what's wrong with it, and then they look for TSBs. And that's kind of backwards because somebody already learned this lesson you're about to get taught. So why not do that first? So that's one of the, that's like the third step that I do. After I've got my basic fundamental information, I know a little bit about the car, then I go look for TSBs. Now, just because there's a TSB for the car doesn't mean it applies to your car.
Right.
And that's where you
got to learn to
just take
decipher
that TSB and go, oh yeah, here's a TSB. This is what's wrong with it. There's steps in that TSB to verify whether it applies, and there'll be some steps that they want you to do to check and confirm that that's what the failure is. And but so many times there's these TSBs. It's like, wow, if these guys had looked at this, they would have known. All they had to do was read it. You know.
2 weeks. Well, on this expedition, you went to the TSB and whammo, there it is.
Yeah.
You know, separator plate, one of the holes was too big, too small, whatever.
Yeah.
We literally took the transmission pan down. We took the transmission filter down, and then we broke it open to verify the transmission. Oh, it's healthy. We don't see a bunch of debris in there.
Yeah.
And then from there, we pulled the valve body off, put on the new separator plate via the TSB. We got the part number and everything from it.
Yeah.
Put it all back together. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Not $10,000, not $8,000. I mean, literally less than $1,000. That car was fixed with brand new fluid in it and ready to go for another 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
So that's the importance of diagnostic and taking those time and that steps. For the customer, it's frustrating because they want an answer right now.
Right.
They don't want to have to go through the questionnaire. They don't want to have to go for the road test. But if you're sincere about fixing your car and you don't want to just assume the worst, then let's go through the steps. I mean, I could go over
$10,000 would have fixed the car.
Oh, would have fixed it
you
because
could put a transmission in it, and she would have been.
It would have fixed it. But it's like replacing an engine when there's only a bad spark plug.
Yeah.
That's how it's. So these are the targeted repairs that we do at Tri-City Transmission that save people thousands and thousands of dollars. Not only that, heartache.
There's a flip side of that too. We put a $10,000 transmission in it, And now it still doesn't work right because the TSB didn't apply to that particular car, and there's actually another problem with it, right? So
Could be the computer, could be something in relation to a sensor on the engine.
Yep.
Easily the most complicated, most misunderstood, most commonly misdiagnosed part of the car.
Yeah, I would say so.
Thanks for joining us. A little bit of insight into transmission diagnostic. You can certainly find our email below in the details, and send us an email if you got questions, you got something you want to hear us talking about. Thanks for joining us on Bumper to Bumper Podcast. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper Podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.